You know that specific kind of envy you get looking at a high-end security control room or maybe a professionally rigged sports bar?
Oh, yeah,
It
absolutely.
isn't just the quality of the screens, it's the clean signal path.
Yeah.
Like, how do you get four 4K streams to behave like one giant canvas without a server rack full of spaghetti?
Right. It creates this completely seamless illusion. We tend to take that visual fluidity for granted, but usually behind the drywall, there is a pretty chaotic mix of stalers and splitters and distinct extenders trying to talk to each other.
Which is exactly why we're doing a deep dive today into the Zenty ZT-386, because it claims to be the antidote to that rack clutter.
Yeah, it does.
It's a 4K HDMI unit that bills itself as a video wall extender, a matrix, and a multi-viewer,
Yeah.
all rolled into one.
And rolled into one is really the operative phrase here, because usually you would need completely separate hardware for each of those functions. This unit creates a unified architecture. But before we get to the flashy screen modes, the extender part is actually the backbone of the whole operation.
Right, because we aren't running standard HDMI cables here. We're pushing 4K signals up to 230 feet.
Exactly. Anyone who has tried to run a passive HDMI cable over, say, 50 feet knows it's a massive gamble with signal dropouts. The Zenty uses standard Cat5e or Cat6 cabling to transport the signal.
So we're ditching the expensive, thick HDMI runs for standard network infrastructure,
Yeah,
which makes field termination way easier.
it does. Plus, it solves the power distribution problem entirely. It uses POC or power over cable.
Oh, right.
So the receiver units behind your TVs, they don't need their own wall warts. They draw juice directly from the main unit over that Ethernet line.
Which is so much cleaner for the install. No hunting for extra outlets up in the ceiling.
Exactly.
Okay, let's get into the logic of the box itself. It has three distinct personalities. First up is matrix mode.
So this is your standard 4x4 setup. 4 sources, say a PC, a cable box, an Apple TV, and a camera. And those are routed to 4 different screens. You can send any input to any output.
But lots of switchers do that. The specs for the Zenty specifically emphasize seamless switching. Usually when I switch sources on a cheaper matrix, the screen just goes black for 3 seconds while it figures out what's happening.
Yeah, that's the ED, AD, and HDCP handshake. The display and the source have to agree on resolutions and copyright protections.
Right.
What the Zenty unit does is essentially fake a constant connection. It keeps that handshake active in the background at all times. So when you tap switch, the video cuts instantly. 0 black screen.
Which is critical if you're doing live events. Now, the second personality is the one that really gets the attention. Video wall mode.
This is where you take a single source, like a live concert feed, and stretch it across a 2x2 grid of screens to create one massive image.
But here's the friction point with video walls. The bezels. If you just stretch the image, the TV frames eat part of the picture. People look like they've been decapitated.
Right, and the ZT-386 has built-in bezel correction to adjust for that negative space. It aligns the image so it looks completely continuous. And if a 2x2 wall isn't big enough, it supports cascading.
Daisy chaining them together.
Exactly. You can link these units to build 3x3 or even 4x4 arrays.
Then you have the inverse function, multi-viewer mode. 4 sources on one single screen.
Pretty standard for security monitoring or betting parlors. You just split the screen into quadrants.
Here is where I have to push back a little on the all-in-one dream, though. The specs mention it handles audio embedding and extraction, which is great, but it only lists LPCM 2.0 support.
Ah, you caught that.
Yeah, if I'm building a high-end home theater or a luxury sports bar, doesn't LPCM 2.0 kill my surround sound? I can't pass through Dolby Atmos.
You can't. That is the ultimate trade-off here. This device prioritizes video distribution speed and processing over audio file decoding. It strips the audio down to stereo.
You got it.
If you need Atmos, you'd likely have to strip the audio before it hits this unit and route it to a totally separate audio processor.
So it's a video-first tool. Fair enough. What about control? Are we stuck using a little plastic remote?
You can use the remote, but for a rack unit like this, you're likely using the RS-232 port or TCP/IP controls. You can integrate it into a Crestron or Control4 system pretty easily.
Now, looking at the price tag, this sits around $2,600. That is a steep entry point for a casual enthusiast.
It is, but you have to do the math on the actual components it replaces. A decent 4x4 seamless matrix, a dedicated video wall processor, and 4 long-range extenders.
Yeah.
If you bought those separately, you'd likely exceed that price and end up with a cabling nightmare.
So you're paying for the consolidation and the warranty. 5 years is solid for Pro Gear.
Exactly. It lowers the barrier to entry for really complex visual setups.
It really makes you think about the future of displays in general.
Hmm.
As these processors get smaller and smarter, it solves the spaghetti cable issue, meaning tiling modular panels in a living room becomes totally viable.
It shifts the whole dynamic of the architecture. The wall itself becomes the screen.
Which brings up a fascinating question for the future. If we all move away from standard 16 by 9 televisions and start using user-defined fluid video walls in our homes, how will broadcasters and filmmakers shoot their content?
Oh, wow.
Right? Will everything have to be captured in ultra-wide panoramic formats just so we can crop and stretch it across whatever wild screen configurations we build?
That is a wild thought.
Something to consider before you drywall that new media room. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the Zenty ZT-386. Catch you on the next one.